Our first event was the Greenwood Rising Black Wall Street History Center in Tulsa on Black Wall Street. Absolutely wonderful experience. The tour guide curator was absolutely caring, sensitive, listened to us, shared the information.
So there were hundreds of homes.
Hi, how are you?
I'm bad.
Dan, I'm Katrius. Dorian.
Dorian. Yeah. We all got home.
How are you?
I know.
Good. You good? You did look up. And Grant.
And Grant. Dorian. I seen you. How you doing? Okay. I like your cut. Yeah, there you go. How you doing? I'm David. Miss Caitlin. Hey.
I didn't know you guys are here. This is my son, Kendall.
So did anybody get it yet?
Huh?
Erica and Aunt Lydia. So you all need to get familiar with these beautiful faces because this is not a one-man show when it comes to making something like this happen, as y'all know. So we're hoping that we'll get to know more of our family at this time and get the numbers and get the emails and keep contact because it's important.
That's why they like.
So people gonna come back at 5:30 for the next because I'm at work right now.
Oh,
Yeah, they in Oklahoma now, so they won't be able to make it because it's work hours.
And they were changing fire codes and ordinances to stop them from rebuilding. They did later get the ability to rebuild bigger and better. This letter between Curtis and Oliver just shows the resiliency of the people that work here. Curtis said, "Hey Oliver, I'm sending you money. You can come rebuild with me." Oliver's like, "Curtis, I appreciate that, but the same spirit that I had when I came here, I still have it and I will rebuild here." So that's just a testament to the resiliency of the people that work here. The equipment in the car, questions and everything like that. So this picture here, I'll give you the background story of that before we go into the video. But this picture here is the GAP band is from here, but GAP stands for Greenwood, Archer, and Pine.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. So there were hundreds of homes, businesses, schools, libraries, attorney's office, hospitals. All those things were in this area for thousands and thousands of people. This was their livelihood. This was their space. But one thing to help sustain their business or this district was that the dollar stayed in their community before it left out. It circulated multiple times within the district before going out to other places. That's the destruction that you would see.
Here.
Oh, yeah.
He dropped it. Are you all together? Yeah, okay.
How you doing?
You do that videography?
Yeah, across the
So I see you when I come.
Yeah, it's for the family.
It is painful, but this is something. It's really good for the young people.
Katrius' grandson, and then that is Malachi is 13 now, so about 10 years ago.
Wow. That's the daddy on.
And Irma Jean, I believe they came from Arkansas together, didn't they? She had children already, but they had 4 children, Archie and Irma Jean. She had Kendrick and another son after him, but I don't know his name, but he had 4 children. And I just want to mention that Aunt Evelyn told me in that same conversation I mentioned, she said, we tried to get Mary to come to Detroit, but she just had to go with Archie. She just wanted to go with Archie to Chicago. She just had to have Chicago, but we told her sisters are here, she could come. I mean, I guess I thank God to have this conversation that she didn't go because I know that I.
It's so good to see you all. I really wish we could all be together, but this is just wonderful too. Say that again.
That you stand on the shoulders of and you don't even really know, right? So if anyone is interested, I started making this list with Dad a couple of years ago about grandmothers, parents' names, what they did for a living, as well as grandpa as well. And I think I have, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the siblings and their children and who lives where. And so I just started kind of compiling, so I can share some of this information if you want to hear it. But I find it very interesting. So on the matriarch side of the family, of course, is Pecola, and her maiden name was Pendleton. Okay, she was a domestic, and her maiden name was Copperwood. No, her grandmother's, her mom's name, Cooperwood. Thank you. Okay, so she had sisters, and Dottie lived in St. Louis, and Ida, and Snowdy, and she had a son named Sherman. Is that right? Okay, and Elsie with Buddy, Lily, and Irene, and then Maddie, and had a daughter named Florence. Okay, so her brother, she had a brother named Andy, and he was a pastor in Palestine, Arkansas. And then Miss Suggs. So she was a first cousin, but she's important because she was the principal of an elementary school called Stewart Elementary in Fort City. Is that right, Daddy? Okay. So then on Grandpa's side, his father's name was Mose, M-O-S-E, right? And he had a sisters named Mozella, and Frances. She had Buddy, and I don't have his brothers listed. So if someone has a list of his brothers, that would be great. So now we get into children and grandchildren. So we have Marcus first. He was in the Army, and he was a mechanic. His first wife's name was Felicia Davenport, and they had one daughter. Second wife is Lucille, and they had Anita, Ono, and Yoko. Right? Yeah, I have the son, but I don't have the son's name. Okay, and then we have Uncle Elmer. He was missing in action in the Korean War, and he did not have any children. And then Helen Turner, her spouse was George. She was a mail clerk, lived in Detroit, and she had children, George Jr., Denise, Valerie, Rick, and Corey. Is that correct? Okay. And then we have Aunt Arbutus, married to Donald, lives in San Francisco, children Deborah, Donald, Nikki, and Gigi. Uncle Archie lived in Chicago, worked for the post office.
Oh, Stephen.
What about Stephen?
Stephen and Arbutus.
Nikki is Donald. Nikki is Donald. His nickname is Nikki.
Oh, okay, good. All right, and then there's
So she had
Stephen.
4 children. Donald, which is Nikki. Deborah, Allison, which is Gigi, and Stephen.
Oh, okay, I got nicknames and real
These are
names.
six.
I got you. Okay. Allison and Gigi.
And Stephen's the sixth.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why I wanted to kind of go over it to make sure. Okay, thank you. So Uncle Archie, Chicago, worked for the post office, and he had a daughter named Debbie, right? Deborah, thank you. Then Uncle DeJustice, he was considered the family star, according to Dad. Lived in Milwaukee.
Always lived up to it.
Yes. The first Black Secret Service was one of the first Black Secret Service agent and worked under 4 presidents. He was married to Dorothy. Did I say that right?
Yes.
His only wife. He had Jody, the Justice Jr., Chris, and John. Okay. And then there's Aunt Evelyn, married to John Lanford Terrell. Give you all his names. She worked in home health, and her daughters Jonah, Jason, and Bruce. Is that right?
Jonah.
Did I say it right?
Jony.
Yes. John. Thank you.
Oh, so I'm not the only one that have one of those.
Right. So then there's Aunt Dorothy, married to Harold. They live in Albuquerque. She made jewelry. She's very creative, an artist. Children, Harold, Dylan, Deidre, and Shanae. Is that right? Okay, and then we have Mary Frances. Lived in Oklahoma City and had Katrius and Michael. Is that right? But she's in Chicago, right? Okay. All right, Aunt Leona lived in Detroit. She's a nurse's assistant. Her husband's name is John Brody. Carol and Jared are her children. And then there's Herbert. Hi, Sissy. There's Herbert Albert. Lived in Detroit. He was a mail clerk, and he had a son, Herbert Jr. Uncle Clarence James, married to Charlotte, had, who's Samuel?
You worked at Samuel.
Oh, he worked at Samuel, okay. I was like, who's Samuel? Okay, and Sierra, Cedra, and Cedric. Yeah. And then Dolores Ann, lived, husband Will, worked in inventory control, and had Tracy and Ahmad. And then the last one, well, the next to last is dead. And then Aunt Laura Jean, she lives in El Dorado. She's a real estate. Husband's name is Winston, and they have Winston and Amber. So if you have any other names for me to add to my long list, I should include Herbert, Uncle Herbert. I said
11. He was 11. Herbert.
So Herbert Albert, he lived in Detroit. He was a mill clerk, and then Herbert Jr. That's on his son. Is that right?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Can you airdrop that?
I sure can. Absolutely. Who's next? Anybody else want to talk?
I want to piggyback off you.
Oh, you got. Oh, I do have one good story. So I'm sorry.
Oh, you go.
So I was one of the kids that loved to go to my grandparents' home, both sides of the family. And anytime that we were in a poor city, I would go, and I loved to go to Mom Coleman's house because there was 2 things. That 3 meals a day was going to always be on the table when you walked in, right? So if it was breakfast, a little bit after breakfast, there was breakfast food on the table. If it was lunchtime, it was lunch food. I don't care if it was like fried hot dogs with eggs and biscuits, but it was always there. And I remember as a kid, it always felt so hospitable. It just gave you a warmth. It was very welcoming, right, when she did that. So it really didn't matter what it was. It's just you're a kid, and there's food on the table, so we're getting ready to, get down, right? The other thing is that she always let me help her. So if she was picking greens or doing peas or whatever, she always let me help her in the kitchen. Because she wasn't as particular as my mom. Because mom was one of those, okay, let me get done, you're underfoot, that kind of thing. Not that she didn't want us to help her, it's just that she was just trying to get it done. She didn't want you doing that. But Mom Coleman was the opposite. So if she let you in her pot, stir it up, taste it, do whatever, and my mom was like, don't you take that top off. So I always loved that about her. And then the most favorite thing I loved is that, she loved Avon, right? And she had every fragrance of the lotions that came in the little twist jars and the powder puffs that you had the big powder poof thing and you could just puff it all over. And she let me put her wigs on. I would put her wigs on and I would rub lotion and I would puff powder. And then she used the big
I think it was like a pink, hot pink or brown thing for, you know how they used to use it to get the oil off their face, and I would rub my face with her powder, and I just loved going. It was like a treasure hunt, right? I would put her jewelry on, and I put her knee highs on, and I would just have myself a good old time. And then I also love to follow Grandpa around, but you have to kind of, I can say it. We're our family. So we would follow him around, and you couldn't really let him know he was following because he was like, go on back in the house, go on up the street, get you an ice cream or something. But he had treasures in his shed outside. We would find magazines and tools and things he had picked up, and we take them in the house, and then like Mom, he showed me how to shave him, so I was shaving him. I think I was 9 years old. Now that I think about it, I'm like, he must have been really brave to let me get a raise on his face, but he would let me do it. Lather him up and everything. So yeah, that's my fond memories. Okay, there you go.
That's Ann.
I think Will was the last one, I think.
I think she was too.
She was the last one born, I think it was Will.
So Stanley is just, where is Stanley in there?
Stanley.
What number are you?
Stanley's after Dee Dee, I think.
No, he's later than
There's
that.
so many of y'all in here somewhere.
He's after.
Yes.
But I was thinking about Mom and Dad and the lineage in which we come from. You know, 15 children. At 15, 8 daughters and 7 sons, and I'm the last boy in the family. I thank God for 7 daughters still living. But I was thinking about Mom Pecola, and back in the day in which you can imagine the difficulty in the day in which she came up. Now, I was born in 1950, and I was the next to the last child born from Mom and Dad. So much of their young, I'm not going to read longer, much of their youth was over by the time I got there. Much of their energy had ran out by the time I got there. So they just couldn't keep up with me. Yes, they couldn't keep up with me, but they imparted so much into me, the legacy that they left for me. I pray that I can leave the legacy for my children and my grandchildren. Mom, for those that know Mom Pecola, she was a proud woman. Now, she was proud, but not with vanity, not that type of pride. But let me say, my mother was a teacher. Not in the educated sense of the word, but in everything that she did, she taught us. She taught us by precept and example. Now, Mom was she was a strong, silent type. But she was very, very proud of where she came from, her legacy. Now, Mom was a day worker back in Arkansas, so you can imagine. So back in that time, when the employees would come and pick them up to take them to work, they would come in these big, long automobiles. And they would have their employees, it would just be 2, and they would drive in the front and they would have to sit in the back. Not like a chauffeur was in the back, but the sitting in the back was a sign of you're not good enough to sit in the front. You see that? So Mom would refuse to sit in the back. She would refuse. Mom said, if I have to sit in the back, I'm not going to work for you. So she was proud in that way. And she was very proud of her heritage. She was proud of her native heritage. She would always think about her hair, how nice it was. And she just was the type of woman that loved the spirit of excellence. Mom loved excellence. And if you didn't try to bring excellence to her, you know, she would just kind of let you know. She would kind of just let you know. She didn't look down on people, but she just expected us to rise to the occasion. Now, one of the things that I loved about Mom was, and I'm going to make this short, My mother wasn't crazy about the women that dated her sons. Particularly a little short one there. But, so my wife is one of the most wonderful women I ever known. She's wonderful. Her mom probably put so much in her. So I would call, and my mother would answer the phone like, am I taking too long? My mother would answer the phone like, when she would call and Lydia would call, my mother would answer the phone like, she would talk like this, Stan, this little girl is calling you.
Oh my goodness.
That's right. So Lydia would, with all patience and all fidelity, she would go and she would go. So I went to the military, make a long story short, I went to the military, and I came out of the military and I married my beautiful wife. So whether mom like it or not, she was a part of the family. So what mom didn't realize was how wonderful a wife that I had married. So we had our first child, Chandria, and so I was in the military. I was overseas at this time. I was all of 19 years old. So mom would bring Chandria over to Mom Pecola's house. And Mom Pecola fell in love with Sean because she looks just like her. And so, and Sean fell in love with Mom. But, so here's what I want to know. So when Mom got over and really began to know my wife, Mom Pecola fell in love with her.
Yeah.
She fell in love with her. You know why? Because Mom had to work, as I said, daycare.
Yeah.
When Lydia would come over, she would clean the house up. And she would cook for her. And she would have dinner for her. She would do all of that because she's a stickler on cleanliness. And Mom didn't have the time to do it like she wanted to do it. So when I came back and her opinion of my wife had changed. She had changed. She appreciated it. So I said, how is Lydia doing? Well, she's very handy. She's very handy. She fell in love with Lydia. She fell in love with Lydia. Now, I want to talk about my dad. But Dad Leon, for one thing, he was a character. He was a very humorous individual, David, I'm telling you. Now, me and Dee, we used to talk about him. Dee, my older brother, that passed not long ago. So Dee and I would say that Dad was before his time. He was a man before his time. He didn't have the education, but Dad was so in tune socially with what was going on in the world. He was so in tune socially until we got tired of him talking about the social aspect of our, he was in tune socially. And that was part of his frustration, David, because he was in tune socially and he saw the ills of this world, but there was not anything that he could really do about it. So that was the level of frustration that Dad had. But Dad was a man that he could tell you what the president should and should not be doing. He could tell you about the politics of Arkansas. He was just, his mind was just all there. But like I said, one of his frustrations was he didn't have the power, neither the ability to make a change. So he was frustrated in that way. And last but not least, he loved my wife shaving him. She would shave him all the time. So one of his main words was hot known. She said, hot known, that girl can shave. So I really appreciate this family. I want you to know, family, that you come from a very rich lineage.
Yeah.
You really do. And the legacy that your parents, I'm looking at Joni and Evelyn and Helen. I'm looking at you.
Yes.
And I'm seeing my sister in you. God bless you.
God bless you.
We had a list at one point.
I have to write it.
We have to do it again.
Mm-hmm. I just know this is the oldest. Elma, Helen, then me, Butte, everybody Butte.
Then Dee, I think.
After me came, I think Archie, I believe, and then Dee, and then I think my mom had about 4 girls in a row.
Had 4 girls in a row.
I think she had
Evelyn over the
Evelyn, Dorothy, Mary, and Oni. And then she had.
Maybe that's when our.
This keep turning off. Maybe this needs to be charged at. Okay, what religion did y'all pray?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's there.
Good to see you. You there?
Hey, Charles, how you doing?
How you doing, man? Good to see you, man. Oh my goodness.
Oh, she's on the thing. I didn't see her.
There
she is.
Okay. Hi, family. Hello. Hey, family. How are you?
Fine. How you doing? Good seeing you.
I'm doing well.
Oh, that's it.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be a part of this family. We love you very, very, very much. And I just wish that you could all be here so that I could just embrace you personally. But, you know, we're doing it in the Coleman spirit, okay? So, we love you. I see you. I see you, Butte. I see Butte.
I wanted to come because I want to represent my mom. And I just tear up, but I'm okay. Just
let it out. Let it out. Let it out.
But I know that she would just really, really appreciate this. I mean, I know it's not all of us, but it's the point that we've all taken the time to. Yes, ma'am.
Take your time.
Well, I can't even say what I want to say.
Let it out.
I like to say, but can't get it out. But anyway, just she would just love this. She would just eat y'all all up. Ask you questions galore. You'd be like, she's something else. You would remember my mom.
Yes.
You would remember my mom.
Oh, yeah.
So I just really appreciate how everyone has been welcoming and opening, very open, and it's just been wonderful. Wonderful to be around you guys. Thank you.
Who was the oldest? And Irma Jean, I believe they came from Arkansas together, didn't they? She had children already, but they had 4 children, Archie and Irma Jean. She had Kendrick and another son after him, but I don't know his name, but he had 4 children. And I just want to mention that Aunt Evelyn told me in that same conversation I mentioned, she said, we tried to get Mary to come to Detroit, but she just had to go with Archie. She just wanted to go with Archie to Chicago. She just had to have Chicago, but we told her her sisters are here, she could come. I mean, I guess I thank God to have this conversation that she didn't go, because I don't know that I would have made it, but she just didn't want to go. So, that's her story. We get it.
My name is Keith Wade, and I currently live in West Bloomfield, Michigan, which is right outside Detroit, Michigan. It's about 25 miles outside of Detroit.
So what type of... So was you born there?
No, I was actually born in Junction City, Kansas.
So Junction City, Kansas. So what made you come up here to Black Bottom, Detroit, over this area over here?
Oh, my mom was from Detroit, so that's why we ended up in Detroit.
Okay, mom was from Detroit. Okay. Yeah. So was it, what type of change? Was it an interesting change? Was it bad, or was it?
Well, I was only in the 3rd grade, so we were living at the time. We were living in California because my dad was in the Navy.
Okay.
And at the time that they decided to part ways, she came back to Detroit and he went back to New Jersey.
Oh, okay. So did you go to a grammar school and high school?
Yes, I attended elementary school, middle school, and 2 years of high school in Michigan. I did attend 1 year of high school down at John Tyler High School in Tyler, Texas.
So was it a private or public?
Public schools.
Okay, quite a...
All public schools.
Okay,
when I graduated, I went off to Michigan State University, got a degree in civil engineering.
Okay, so now is that like designing streets, something like that, or what is that?
Well, I was really trained to design airplanes.
Okay.
Well, I was in civil engineering, so civil engineers is the broadest field of engineering. And but what I ended up doing is I ended up starting my first official job out of school was working for what was then called Michigan Bell, part of the AT&T system.
Okay.
And I worked in the engineering department there for 10 years, and I was responsible for ensuring that there was capacity in our switching offices to carry calls.
Oh, okay. So that's like a dispatch program or something like that.
Well, not quite dispatch. More of making sure that there was when you pick up your phone that you've got dial tone.
Okay.
Making sure that there's capacity for you to make the phone calls that you wanted to make.
Okay, that's quite interesting. And how did you meet this sister over this lovely lady over here?
Well, my wife is a Coleman.
Okay.
Her mother was a Coleman.
Okay.
And so my wife by default is a member of the Coleman family. And actually, my family has known her family for many years.
Okay.
My mother sold her family encyclopedias.
Oh my God.
My mother was a teacher, so she
your
sold
family
them.
knew her family.
Right.
Oh my God.
Okay. Even though we did not know each other, actually probably for our junior high and high school years, probably, maybe even elementary years, we lived right around the corner from each other.
So how'd you meet her at a party, disco, bar? Or?
It was actually at our church. She came and played at one of our annual harvest concerts.
Okay.
No, nothing. I did have one of my mother's younger brothers worked with Dr. Martin Luther King for many years. They had relocated to the Atlanta area when they worked with him.
Okay.
My uncle, Robert L. Green, was he was the first director of education for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference.
Okay.
So I am the daughter of Helen Turner, who is a Coleman, the oldest daughter of the Comans.
Okay.
And she is now passed.
Okay.
And I am I was one of 5.
Okay.
Born to the union of George and Helen.
Okay.
But now my oldest brother, George Jr., and my oldest sister, Ava Denise, have now passed as well. So I am now the oldest of the 5 Turner children who were born.
Okay.
So I am the matriarch.
Oh my goodness.
Of the family now, which is something that you just learn to accept.
Right.
Yes.
So that's responsibility whether you accept it or not, huh?
Exactly.
So how many children do you have?
So my husband and I have 3 children, 3 girls, and 2 of the girls are living in Northern California. They live in San Francisco and Oakland, California. And then one of the daughters, thank goodness, is living in Michigan and not too far from her parents.
She live in Michigan?
Yes. The youngest daughter lives in Michigan with her husband.
So now what trade did you get involved with? Police, psychology, a teacher, doctor?
For me?
Yes, you.
So I am a retired teacher.
Okay.
I taught in the school systems of Detroit and Southfield for 35 years.
Okay.
And I retired now I retired in 2013.
Okay.
So that's been quite a little ways ago.
So now was that school, was that grammar school, high school, or what?
I was teaching when I retired at Southfield High School. It's a suburb of Detroit.
Okay.
And I, like I said, I taught maybe in the Southfield schools for about 17 and a half years before I retired.
So were they, was it all black, white, Hispanic, or a combination of what?
It's a combination district. Mostly at this point in time, it would probably be predominantly black.
Okay.
But when I taught there, like I said, I've been retired now about 10 years, 9 years. Yeah, it was more of a mixed community, diverse, you know. But yeah, I think it's changing.
Okay, so now how did you meet this man right here? Did you sweep him off his feet? Did you grab him or something like that, or you took advantage of him or what?
I was taking advantage.
I understand the same way.
Actually, today is our 39th.
Actually, today is our 39th
so almost 40
anniversary.
years.
July 30th, we got married some 39 years ago. And today is our anniversary, and we decided to spend it here with you and you and you and the whole reunion committee.
So, what would you say to somebody, I think, who's trying to get to that where you are, as far as the marriage, something like that?
Well, you know, the biggest thing about marriage is, the key thing is communication as you grow. Because you will be growing and your spouse will be growing, and you just hope that you will grow in ways that complement each other together. So, yeah, if you can continue to communicate with one another and continue to grow, I guess, parallel. You know, you're not going to grow exactly in the same ways, exactly at the same times, but hopefully you don't get too far off track as you're growing.
So, now, what do you say to that? Give me the microphone now.
I guess I have to. Oh, I guess I have to.
You better agree.
Ditto. I agree. You know, people are different. And, you know, even as long as we've been together, we still have different hobbies and different things. But then we have a lot of commonality that keeps us together.
There you go.
As I say, it's kind of like life. It's not for the squeamish, and it takes work.
Right.
But you got to be willing to put in the work to get results.
And so now, what about all these changes that you've seen in, I guess, in drugs and sexism and racism, and how's that affected you, something like that at all? Well, and you've seen a bunch of changes. I'd imagine since you've been there, haven't you?
There have been a lot of changes, and I don't let it get to me.
Right.
You know, the Bible has foretold a lot of this stuff that's going on now.
Right.
Racism, you would think that we would be beyond that at this point.
Not at all, of course not.
But no, that's why I was asking people here what their experience is, even living here in the Tulsa area, seeing that, you know, that big uprising happened here during Black Wall Street.
Right, yeah.
So in the early 1900s. So, you know, you got to wonder, you know, a lot of those families are still here.
Right, and there's some.
Both the white families and the black families. So what is the undercurrent here in terms of people being able to get along?
Right.
And it seems like it's somewhat been put to rest, but I suspect there are undercurrents.
Right, and you know that.
Yeah.
And especially with Reverend Trump being in office on.
Oh
yeah.
So and that is the fact that he was elected president is also indicative of the state and health of the country.
That's right.
And being the daughter of the oldest daughter, it seems to me that all of the siblings had come to visit at some point, come to visit my parents, George and Helen. At some point, we had, out of the 14 children, I'm going to say maybe at least somewhere between 10 and 12 of them. So I kind of got to know a lot of them, even though that wasn't really the role that I played. I wasn't the one who was reaching out to cousins and aunts and uncles like my sister, who was right above me. She was the one who was the family person, called everyone and welcomed them in and just loved on people. So I wasn't like that, but I did get a chance to meet most everyone. This is the family that I don't know. It's all of you. The ones who lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I didn't get a chance to know, and I didn't get a chance to know Mary's children. But being here today is really, thank you, Katrius, Tanetta, for your efforts. The last Coleman family reunion was in Michigan. It was. We have a picture as proof. It was well attended. I guess one of the 20 years ago or so reunion where we had many of the brothers and the sisters come to Michigan where I live. And that was, I think, 20 years ago. I'm not really even sure how many, but they really showed up for that reunion. So here we are maybe 20 years later, and it's wonderful to see the second generation taking it on and bringing it to life. You know, how they say, come hell or high water. They did it, and that's what I'm here for, is to support you and to commend you for your efforts in bringing the family together. I think it's just a beautiful thing. And I thank Stan and Lydia for every part that they played in making this happen right here in their home state. And it was a lot of trouble getting to this state, but we are here. And we are thankful to be here. My husband and I, we came through a lot of cities and states to get here. So we're so glad that we were able to come. So thank you again, the committee, the planning committee. You put together a wonderful website with all the activities and hotels and all the information that we needed. All we needed to do was get here, and that's what we overcame.
Erica played a major role. This is the history